Good morning, and thank you for joining us in our first session where we try to bring you up to date with all of the changes that are going on with the USDA and the REAP program. We work nationwide with so many of you and with farmers in different situations with corn and beans and rice and cotton. We are being inundated with questions. And because of that, we thought we should take some time to tell you what we do know, to make sure you know what we don't know, and see if we can help you plan for what's going to be a very, very interesting harvest and winter before planting again. So we're going to be doing these probably every week on a Wednesday. We would like to have your regular participation and get from you the questions that are important to your operation, because that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to help you become more efficient, more profitable, more sustainable in what you're doing. And we think the USDA still has some very, very strong tools just for this purpose. The USDA, for the last 20 years of our experience, has been a very good partner in trying to support energy efficiency and renewable energy in rural and farm applications. That's great. They have done a wonderful job. Frankly, well, we probably won over $200 million for folks just like you out in the field for projects that meet the criterions we'll talk about a little bit later. That's a lot of money. The last 3 years have been outstanding for many, many people in trying to support this type of project. But the world has changed, the market has changed, and the government has changed. And we're going to talk a lot about these changes over the next few weeks. Do we know all the answers? Absolutely not. No one does at this point. We are waiting actively, as is normal with a government program, for rules to be published that should be published at the first of the month in October. That's our goal, to keep a current of the rules, let you know what they are so that you can participate. But we see trend lines. We see some pretty strong trend lines. And the first one we see is that 80% of the money in the last few years has been going towards renewable energy, solar, biomass, renewable natural gas, some very good projects. That won't continue in the next year. The rules are changing, the scoring is changing. Those types of projects likely will be put at a disadvantage towards some of the bread and butter stuff that we've been doing for 20 years, like grain dryers. So we thought it'd be natural to start off with our first conversation being about the most traditional grant that you can get from the USDA. One, to help your grain dryers get funding so they can put capital into your projects and make better decisions on how you go to market. So with that said, let's talk just a little bit about who we are. Most of you that are here probably have heard or talked to us before, but my name is Bruce. I am an engineer. I'm actually a certified energy manager and a technical service provider for the USDA. I graduated from Purdue, and I've got a master's degree in business. What I really have, though, is a 200-year-old farm down in southern Indiana that I'm very, very proud of. It's the 7th generation of farming down there for us, and we're hoping to make it to the 8th generation if at all possible. But it's not easy times, so we hope that it'll all work out and we can make that transition as all the generations before us have. I've been working on REAP for over 20 years. I've been working on REAP in almost every possible area. And this year, I'm working on REAP in a brand new area, which is technical assistance. Now, the REAP program, I think we can all feel pretty assured that if there's a farm bill in any state or form, will exist. It's been there for 20 years. It's probably going to go for another 20 years because it's a very, very popular program. And for the last 20 years, it's offered about a 25% refund on grain dryers, irrigation, and other types of projects that we'll discuss over the few months ahead. But we know that it's going to be there, and we know that they have found that the biggest barrier for folks like yourself to participate is all of the paperwork and the technical information that they require in order to award that money. They've been very good. The USDA has been a good partner. They have funded my organization to help people in select states to pull together these grants at, in some cases, no cost, in some cases, reduced costs, because they realize these barriers are large and they want to make it so that everybody can participate. When I say everybody can participate, I want to make sure I send one message probably every week. We are really not here to write grants. We're here to help you on the farm. And so the biggest question we always get is what money is available? And I would always want to refocus that question to the idea that what does your farm need? Identify that, and people like myself will likely be able to find you funding to help you get to your goals. Don't chase the government money. Chase the right thing for your farm so that, like our farm, you can go on multiple generations and have a good, sustainable operation. Traditionally, the best solution in this REAP program has been grain dryers. Incredibly huge consumers of energy are grain dryers. The amount of propane that a grain dryer uses is phenomenal. As you probably all know, when you see those trucks pull up to your farm, it's a lot to keep that grain dry and running. And when you have that much energy being used, reducing the amount of energy is actually a pretty reliable thing to do. We'll have some information a little bit later on about how much the average farm will receive a reduction in cost per bushel by having a good dryer versus maybe a bad dryer. And I also want to talk to you about the difference between having no dryer and a dryer. If you choose to go down the path of grain dryers, likely you'll get a 25% rebate back from the government. If you put this together with winter discounts, if you talk to your accountant about depreciation on a purchase like this, you're probably going to find about half of the price of a dryer is going to be afforded by somebody else other than your organization. This is why it makes it a very strong application to go for a grain dryer. Timing is very, very important. Like in farming, there's a time to plant and a time to harvest. We are entering into that time to plant for grant applications. As you finish your harvest and you begin your plans for next season, the winter discounts will become available in all likelihood for grain dryers. Discounts will come online. You'll have some very good opportunities to take advantage of things, but you have to start the process early. You can't rush the process. We're talking about a government program. Now, some of you are looking at a grain dryer for the very first time. I was down in the Mississippi Delta just the other day where people are starting to say, do I really want to grow cotton? Do I really want to grow rice? And the answer in some cases is no. I want to start switching into corn. If you don't have a grain dryer, I want to encourage you strongly, that's a good word, strongly, to look at the idea of adding in the very beginning a grain dryer to your operation. Now, there's a lot of good things that happen when you have a grain dryer. I mean, the first thing is you can get out in the fields early and avoid a lot of problems. Conflicts with other uses of your machinery, conflicts with the weather, things like that. You can also harvest the corn much earlier. Instead of waiting for it to dry down in the field, quote unquote, you can be out there 28 points or so. And you know what? If you run a combine through a field with moist corn versus dry corn, less head loss will occur on the combine head. Now, I know some of you probably know a John Deere salesman says, we don't have any head loss. But trust me, if you went back out and walked behind your combine through your fields and just take a little square and count how many grains are left on the ground after that combine has passed through it, you'll see that head loss is real. Head loss is significant. And the sooner you're out there with the moisture corn, the less head loss you have. Now, we've had here in the Midwest some very unusual weather. We've had hail, we've had tornadoes, we've had, well, typical Midwest weather. If you have a dryer, you can be out there earlier and avoid some of these weather complications. One of the things I think is most important, though, is the fact that There's been a lot of studies done the last few years that say if you add grain drying to your process, you will increase yield. Some people say it's as low as only 0.5% of yield increase for every point of drying you add to your operation. Some studies say it's 1.5% yield increase for every point of drying. Let me be conservative and say 1%. So if you were out there at 18 points waiting for it to field dry, and all of a sudden now you had a dryer and you could go out there and be at 28 points, you would have a 10% increase in your yield, according to many studies done by multiple universities. That reliably states that the sooner you're out there, the greater the yield from the field will be. Some of it's for drop years, some of it's for head shatter. All those things are very, very real. But whatever the cause of this, it's a very studyable and researched phenomenon. The other thing I would actually add in here too is that having a grain dryer will help you change your calendar. Sometimes you've got other grains that you have to bring in at the same time. It might be you're having to go back and forth with your combine. But what I hear a lot of is if you have a grain dryer, you can plant the longer term seeds. And again, I would not want to say I know what Pioneer or Beck's or any of those guys will say about their seeds, but I bet you they'll tell you the longer it's out in the field, the higher the yield will be. Grain dryers buy you time. Time can get you yield. So if you haven't thought about a grain dryer in the past, or if you've been doing, basically field drying as they call it, really good idea to look into this. I need to explain one thing about EIM. We don't sell things. If you buy a grain dryer, if you don't buy a grain dryer, it doesn't change our life at all. But I think if you buy a grain dryer, it might change what you're doing and the operation that you have and its profitability. Now, some of us do have grain dryers. And this is an important point. If you have a bin with just fans, that's called natural air drying, or a bin with fans and propane heaters, maybe Chicago, something like that, you're going to be using energy to reduce the moisture current. That's drying. And you can do a lot to really improve the quality of your product and the cost of your operation by paying careful attention to grain drying. Let's talk about that most primitive example, which is somebody's drying grain in a bin. Okay, you put the grain in, right? It feels good to fill up that bin, I imagine. You turn the fan on, maybe you turn the fan and the heater on, and the air hits the bottom, and it's very, very moist, and it keeps on going up, and there you go. And what happens there is you get kind of a stack effect, just almost like a chimney for your house, where at the very bottom, you get a lot of drying going on. At the very top, not so much. The difference there is you will probably over dry the bottom of the bin and under dry the top of the bin. What does that mean? Well, it means when you take your product to the elevator to sell, they will not pay as much as it could be valued, because instead of delivering, say, 15.5% corn, that bottom of the bin might be bringing it in at 13, 13.5, 14 points. That's money left on the table by not having a good, efficient drying system. And then again, when you get to the top of the bin, you might have 17 points. And that 17 points, well, they'll dock you for that pretty reliably. Or even worse, they might offer to dry it for you. And I was talking to a farmer just the other day, and that farmer showed us that he was paying, by the time it was all said and done, I'm going to say this is incredible and how could this happen, but it does, 53 cents a bushel for transportation, storage, and drying costs each and every year on every bushel. Think about that in our market today. Do any of us have that much money laying around that we could afford to let the elevator take that much of the value out of the products that we're trying to take to market? An efficient dryer is a very, very good thing to have. Now, some folks do a lot of drying. Some folks do a little drying. It depends on your market. If you're in some markets, say you're selling into distillery, you got to over dry from the traditional 15.5 points. And in some cases, you may be trying to do more field drying and you don't have too much drying to do. We've been doing this 20 years. Most people save at least, the word least, 7 cents per bushel in cost when they are taking from a simple drying system. I don't say bad, because if it gets it dry, it's good. A simple drying system to an efficient modern system. 7 cents doesn't sound like much, but some of you folks are growing 500,000 bushels of corn. Add those two numbers together and you've got a pickup truck. The other thing I want to really stress is that this is getting more and more scientific all the time. What you deliver to the elevators, what you deliver to the value-added markets is becoming more and more important for moisture control, stress, and cracks in the grain. You need to have a good product. If you're delivering to a premium buyer, like a food grade, they are not interested in cracked corn. They want a product that's going to process through and make those Frito-Lay chips exactly the same way each and every time. If you're delivering to distillery, a lot of quality control issues. And a good drying system will literally let you have a lower cost of drying, but at the same time, a much higher product that you can, quality product to take to the marketplace. It's a good idea. It's a good idea to have a good system, and they're going to pay 25% at least, maybe up to 50%. We're not really sure yet. The rules aren't published. But if you look at drying through the REAP program and through the technical assistance that we can give you with the, it's a program called REAP Technical Assistance Program, you'll be able to select a very, very good thing. And if nothing else, I worry that sometimes this grain might have to sit in the bin a lot longer, and having it dried exactly right can avoid mold, let you maybe buy more time in the bin if the markets are not such that you can't take it to market exactly when you want. We want to help you. We've been doing this for 20 years. We have a team of people. We have on staff environmental engineers, scientists. We have on staff myself, an energy engineer. We've got doctorates. We've got all sorts of masters people. Last year, we had over 17 people dedicated to helping people through this process. This year, we've got the support of the USDA to do even more than we have before. We can help you get to this refund from the government for something you need to do anyway for your farm. We'd like to get you engaged with this process. We know you have a million questions, and more than just a slide set, a lecture, what we really want to do is start engaging in a conversation where we learn from you what you need, get the answers from the USDA and present it to everyone so that we all have a fair chance to make our farms profitable, sustainable, and a multi-generation operation. I look forward to talking with you regularly. We're going to have a lot of guests on these programs together. And because of that, I would say if you have ideas on what you want to hear about, if you have questions on what's applicable, what's allowable, what the costs are, there's a lot to know. And frankly, after 20 years, we know a lot of it. Just send us a note. Send us a note and we will respond, and we will put that into these regular shows so that we're providing the information you need in the format you need it. I look forward to starting and continuing this conversation over the next harvest season. And I hope you have a good, safe harvest. Take care.